Welcome back, it's Rich, and in this episode, Rich reviews a double bill, RoboCop 1987 and RoboCop 2014. Let's go. Welcome back to Rich Reviews, no nonsense movie chat from the UK. So RoboCop 1987, one of the ultimate 80s action flicks, and stood alongside classics such as Terminator, Predator, Aliens, and many more 18-rated flicks that as a teenager, me and my mates couldn't wait to see. We often didn't get trailers back then unless you were really lucky and caught them on a cinema, but maybe at the start of a rental VHS tape, so, all we had really was magazines and box art posters to drool over in a local video store. Most of these types of films starred some big muscle dude, however RoboCop was different as our main character was the super cop cyborg played by Peter Weller, who was distinctly normal size, whereas the suit was the big chap itself. Directed by Paul Verhoeven, whose credits include Starship Troopers, Basic Instinct and Total Recall to name a few, Verhoeven often focused on a dystopian-style setting with some torn-down future riddled with crime. The film was a success at the time, spawning a couple of sequels and TV series, merchandise and all sorts of other things that I probably don't even know about. There was even a decent arcade game in there too, which was rock hard to say the least. It's even getting a modern console release now in 2024. And that looks the dogs, but we'll see how that one pans out. Aside this though, in terms of movies, everything kind of drifted away after the couple of sequels until kind of 25 years later or so, where we get the remake RoboCop 2014. And that follows a similar structure in terms of the film, but it allows for a new cast, bit of a tweaked story, and updated effects. Due to its age, the original has become a massive cult classic now, and it still gets special screenings at selected cinemas, which I'm told is a great experience, and I've yet to be part of that. Most versions of this 87 classic shown on TV are significantly cut. Likewise, many of the original release formats were too, but fortunately, full uncut versions are now pretty easily available, and these add a significant amount of gore and strong, hard 18-rated elements to the version that I reckon most of you would have probably seen as a casual viewer. But let's dig into both versions and see which one comes out on top and why. So let's start with RoboCop 87. It's a pretty simple premise. The city of Detroit's on the brink of collapse due to the ever-increasing crime wave, and the police are struggling to cope. Enter OCP, run by corporate head Dick Jones, and their invention of their law enforcement droid ED-209, or Ed 209 if you want to say it like that, which unfortunately though malfunctions, killing an employee in spectacular fashion. We then get young enthusiastic Bob Morton, who steps in to present his RoboCop idea, but all he needs is a candidate to fill the suit. He gets the green light, and then after this we cut to Alex Murphy, a good boy cop paired with new partner Ann Lewis, who's assigned to pursue the notorious criminal Clarence Bodica and his gang. The gang ambushes and tortures Murphy until Bodica fatally shoots him, and then OCP has Murphy's body converted into RoboCop, a heavily armoured cyborg with no memory of his former life. RoboCop pursues the criminal chain and begins to clean up the city to great success. After learning that Dick Jones paid Bodica to remove various OCP employees due to his jealous cyborg programming failing, RoboCop finally saves the day and all is well. The 2014 remake's a slightly different take, but on a similar-ish theme. Omnicorp this time is selling the ED-209 as a robotic peacekeeper. However, due to various laws, they can't be sold in the United States. Enter the RoboCop idea, and this time Joel Kinnaman as Alex Murphy. This time being the unfortunate victim of a car bomb explosion. And while the 87 version had elements about the human side, this version leans into that much more, with his wife continually pushing for him as a person, and his memories to return while the organisation continues to try and suppress these memories. But still, similar in how Lewis did this in the 80s version. RoboCop, as before, learns of inside corruption and eventually uses his emotions to overcome his programming and takes down the no-good dirty cops to save the day. Both films have their fair share of ups and downs, but let's start with what worked. So RoboCop 87, this worked on so many levels. At the time, the effects were absolutely outstanding. Don't forget, this is prior to any CGI. It's a few years back from Jurassic Park. And so the suit is fully real and looks amazing. It's an iconic design. And Peter Weller worked wonders in the role as a whole, but also just in the way he moves and turns, which is now as much of a classic look as the suit itself. It wasn't easy though, with Weller reportedly losing almost 3 pounds in weight a day from water loss. However, the effects did pay off. The efforts paid. I vividly remember the suit design when I first saw the trailers and pictures, and I was blown away by it. It's not just the suit too. The character inside, Alex Murphy, has these flashbacks and emotional connections to his past, and I think that's something as us, the audience, relate to. This views very differently then to something like Terminator, where it's effectively reversed in that that's a robot becoming human. This is a human casualty trying to be pushed to become a robot, and he's kind of fighting against it. It's taking our human side. It's this difference that helps us connect with Murphy, and it's emphasised in both films, either by Lewis's partner or by Murphy's wife in the 2014 version. The violence and gore of the original two is perfect of that era. Anything 18 related back in the 80s was sure to have this level, and it's done with outstanding effect too. We get again, typically of the 80s style, a wonderful set of villains. Memorable, really stereotypical, but they work brilliantly. The OCP's head, Dick Jones, played by Ronnie Cox, along with Kurtwood Smith as the fantastically nasty Clarence Bodicker, both of them repeating these kind of roles in various 18s-rated 90s films and 80s films. Ed 209 as well. He's an outstanding design too, and more than a match for our metal friend, unless you had some stairs in there, and then that's all that's needed to foil his questionable programming. We get endless quotable taglines from this too, such as, "You have 20 seconds to comply," "Your move, creep," "Thank you for your cooperation," and a special message for the kids back home, "Stay out of trouble." It's a great story. It's a pretty simple idea, but adding the robo suit and alternate robot villain makes this step into the sci-fi style section too, and it was something totally new at the time. The ending too's perfectly played out, where RoboCop and his software directives stop him from attacking or arresting a senior OCP employee, only at the end for the main man, Dick Jones, to get fired. Thus, RoboCop thanking the other senior for doing that, then being able to pummel him with bullets out of a skyscraper window just like any other day at the office. We then get the great moment of "Nice shooting, son, what's your name?" to which he replies, "Murphy." We cut to the RoboCop font, the credits, and the awesome stellar soundtrack kicks in, and it still sounds great to this day. So RoboCop 2014, and to be fair to this, I did actually enjoy this. I expected to walk out of the cinema trashing it, but was pleasantly surprised. I had a fun time. It's not memorable for anything like the original, but it's well worth a watch if you've not seen it. It's a good film. It's much more realistic in terms of how it plays into today's society, with governments policing the world, drones, internet, technology, military, and so on. It makes for interesting viewing rather than the original's kind of stereotypical dirty society, drugs and money, that sort of thing. The suit this time is much leaner than the original, but he's still a really big dude when you see him on screen. Again, most of the time, this is a real suit too, but we do get a fair few full CGI shots in this, as the tech's there for this film, so we get some of that. It's kind of a mix between the original suit with a bit of Iron Man and Tron thrown together, but it looks decent. It looks like an updated RoboCop, and that works. It's Joel Kinnaman this time playing Alex Murphy, and he's good. He's more serviceable than great. He's robotic, no pun intended in this. You know, he's in the robot a lot. There's kind of very little of him, but when he is, it works well, and he gives a good sense in the suit of conveying weight and a mechanical feel. We also get the awesome Michael Keaton and Gary Oldman, with Keaton taking the reins of the big corporate head, and a welcome return for him to cinema screens. And Oldman, who plays a kind of sympathetic doctor scientist working on RoboCop, helping Murphy through the challenge of living as this super RoboCopper. We get some great training scenes which really start to show just how capable this new version suit is, and what a more modern film can achieve as well. In this, he's sharp, fast, agile, very different to the original film. The training scenes too, they're managed by the great Jackie Earle Haley, who's so unused in many films as well. Also, despite the disappointing PG-13 rating, I did still get a great sense of violence and the injuries sustained to Murphy, only without the blood or torture. The scene showing him what was left of his body and his emotion seeing it was pretty gut-wrenching, and it shocked me watching it because I just did not expect to see what I did. It seemed a little bit over far-fetched at the time when I saw it, but also at the same time, maybe realistic. Maybe they could do that. I don't know. It's a great film, though. It's different enough that we really kind of can't compare it to the original. It's more like it's just another story that's not linked at all. It's not a remake, it's a reboot, but it's also very different. Maybe the same sort of world, just decades later, more modern. But between this and the original classic, was everything precise shooting, or at times did we find things not cooperating? Let's look at what didn't work. So I'll stay on RoboCop 2014 for now. One big area that would have made a big difference in this was the PG-13 rating. To be fair to it, and don't get me wrong, the film does really well with this rating. It does try its best to push that limit. It's certainly not a kid's film, but it falls far short of the original's gore and gruesome scenes, which though don't make a film, they're kind of expected in a RoboCop film. It'd be like having a PG version of Aliens, or, we got that PG version of Die Hard, for example. Blech. While it's a good film, it's just not memorable. I can't quite put my finger on it either. I liked it, but then I walked away, and I never really thought about it since until doing this video. But I have thought about the old RoboCop film. I might actually watch it again now, but I can't remember much from it. And maybe because it's not new, it's not got dazzling effects. There's not something uniquely different about it, which the first one presented with us all this. We've seen all this before, and in 2014 when this came out, you'd already had hundreds of amazing looking films and some outstanding classics too. So not only is it up against the original 87 film, that even though I've said it's not kind of the same thing, it's going to get compared to it. But it's going to get compared to everything around it too, with outstanding effects. We also get a bit of a slow middle where we kind of see the memories that he's been building and trying to remember things, get wiped, then get rebuilt again. It's kind of back where we started. It's a bit pointless. It's hard to really state, though. You mention RoboCop to someone who knows what it is, they would 99% picture the 80s version robot for sure in their mind. Not this one. As a film, the original's better, but it's not a lot better. This is still a good film. It's just the old one's way more memorable. Does that make it better? Well, not really. It doesn't make it better because it's more memorable. It just gels with us better and makes future versions fight a losing battle from the start, no matter how good they're going to be. With regards to the 1987 version, it's tough to pick anything. It really is. It's a quality piece of filmmaking, that. I don't have any poor points about it. The only comment I can think about is more when you notice it watching it now, although I did pick up on it originally, and that's the stop-motion animation of Ed 209. Now, at the time, most people just accepted this, because it was kind of the only way to do it. There was no CGI. But even back then, this is getting a little bit later on. I remember thinking that because RoboCop himself looks so smooth, so real and so good, against Ed 209, it did show that stop motion was a flawed effect. This is not an old Ray Harryhausen stop motion film that you'd expect, like Sinbad, Clash of the Titans, where it's that kind of thing. This is getting much more modern now. It's kind of ironic that stop motion gives a robotic-like movement, so maybe it's a little bit forgiving in this. But it was noticeable, even back then, and it's super noticeable nowadays, though. It's tough, because it was of its time, so it's not mentioned as a point that didn't work. But I did remember as a teenager thinking it looked a little off. So before giving my final thoughts, if you like what you see today, please don't forget to check out my other videos. Feel free to like, follow my channel by subscribing for free, and share your thoughts in the comments below. So 2 films here. For RoboCop 1987, this gets an easy 5 out of 5 for me. It's gritty, violent, and super stereotypical 80s, but with a futuristic cyborg element thrown in, and it has some of the most memorable and quotable lines of any film I know. For the 2014 version, it's a good film. This gets a respectable 3 out of 5. If you've not seen it, I think you'll probably enjoy it. It looks great, and the story elements are much more grounded in our kind of social modern reality. Both films are on Amazon Prime and a few other services, and if you've not seen the new one, or dare I say you've not seen any of them, then man, that's your weekend sorted out. So what do you think of RoboCop, old or new? Leave a comment below. But until next time, keep smiling, peeps.